Namaste Galactic Family. Welcome back to my channel, Indigo Angel. Welcome if you are new, and if you are returning, don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can continue to receive my messages. And come on into this dimension, guys. And as always, thank you for your love and support of my channel. And if you enjoy this content, please comment, engage in the video, and please share this video, because this is the best way for others to find out about my work and to get these messages out. So sharing is the best thing you can do. Commenting is the best thing you can do. I have recently disabled my likes and dislikes just for some time being. For one, because for me, it's really not about likes and dislikes. And for two, I feel that it would be better to encourage my subscribers, my friends, my followers, everyone who supports me to just share the videos, because this is the best way, honestly, for this to get out. It's not about the likes, it's about sharing, and it's about commenting, because that way I can really gauge where the people who are watching my content are when they comment. It lets me know, it gives me really good feedback as to what direction I need to go in next, or what I need to further explain on a deeper level. And that way I just can better gauge my next content and how to further put myself out there and how to engage with everyone who's watching. So please comment and please share this video if you believe in the messages that in the videos and the content that I put out. Okay, so today we're going to discuss the 4-Quadrant Hybridization Society, as I promised from my last Cosmic Grid update. And also, I just wanted to state as well as a disclaimer on this video, I can neither prove or disprove any information that I present, right? Okay, because I simply just present what's true to my own gnosis, my own perspective, my own experiences, my own studies, and my own guidance from the divine and from guardian consciousness. And guardian consciousness is simply meaning those spiritual forms and cosmic signatures that are closest to God. So if you feel you are a guardian, it would be because you would be connected to, on a spiritual level, to these spiritual formations of guardianship, right? And they can present in all kinds of different forms. So many people resonate with guardian consciousness. It's spoken about in most of the main biblical scriptures. And I know that on my channel, I'm not typically quoting from biblical scriptures. I'm really just roundabout receiving information from all sacred books, and I'm making my own conclusions of certain things, and I'm coming up with my own gnosis and my own understanding of these things. And so they're great references because all matters, all prophecy matters at the end of the day. So the guardians are spoken about in Hebraic Bible, the Gnostic Bible, and they're also taught about in the MCEO Freedom Teachings, Asha and Adine's The Voyagers, and several other writings historically. And so you can really start to kind of get an idea as you come into a lot of this information, what guardian consciousness means and how you connect to it on a soul level, whether that's through its spiritual formations or through its cosmic account as well, because it's all a radial signature at the end of the day. It's all a way to communicate with light intelligence, essentially. So I just want to say, if you listen today, you do so at your own gnosis, because we are going to be highly cross-jumping realms today. We're going to be jumping from cosmic perspective to planetary and geographical perspectives, also to historical perspectives, and then also to interdimensional perspectives. So I'm going to need you guys to just stay with me, because we're going to be kind of flip-flopping around without really having explanations for the flipping around. So you just got to be able to multidimensionally navigate through the conversation, essentially. And that's the challenge in most of the things that I do present, is that I'm trying to bring forth information that doesn't necessarily follow linear formats. And so I do the best I can to make everything perceivable and understandable, but a lot of times we're just timeline jumping like crazy. So you just have to really kind of hang in there with all of this. Now, the 4-Quadrant Hybridization Society is a geographical viewpoint of the cosmological alignment of the 4 royal stars. Okay, so this is a royal hybridized society, and it is a royal extension of the Quadrant Kings, which we are going to dive into in great detail today. I'm going to be pulling up 3 different maps today as we go through everything, just for me to try to fully explain all of this to you guys. And so I'm going to be doing the best I can with that. Also, I just want to recommend, if you would like to stay somewhat current on this particular topic of videos of gate and grid keeping and grid networks, I have been discussing all of this time. I've been doing cosmic grid updates for about the last 2 years, and I have put out an abundance of content on this. A lot of this I do keep on my Patreon. I have about 7 grid keeping videos on my Patreon. So Patrons, if you've just joined, please go back and reference some of this older work, because a lot of the things that I put out now is me referencing work that I did 2 years ago a lot of times. And so I'm like merging new perceptions with old things that I've realized. And so it kind of helps if you've been following me and you've been wanting to kind of just get more studied up on what I'm talking about, to reference a lot of the older videos. But essentially, my previous cosmic grid update was called the Aquila Network. And it's basically the Atlantean Aryan network or control network that is held down by the emblem of the eagle. And this is where I thoroughly break down the nations of the Aquila emblem according to the national animal of that country, and how these nations are still functioning under an Atlantean Aryan grid overlays and control systems. Okay, so I'll leave a link in the description to that most recent cosmic grid update. If you just scroll down on my videos list, you're going to see it as well. But I'm going to leave a link to several other videos as well in the description today, where I break down other grid templates that I feel I may have referenced some information from today. And like I said, I recommend watching all of these videos, because it's going to better help explain the functionings of these systems. So I highly recommend watching these, especially if you're trying to learn, especially if you're trying to understand planetary grid systems for grid keeping and gatekeeping, which is an extension, I do feel, off of celestial ascension or just starseed wisdom, starseed knowledge, right? Because it's really about going through ascension, going through physical body ascension, coming into celestial ascension, embodying all of this wisdom, collapsing the DNA, re-encoding the DNA, re-encoding your geometric system to new information. And so it therefore kind of sends you off into the quest of grid keeping, gatekeeping, grail keeping, and these are all just words that explain, I feel, much more advanced levels of ascension once you start to, or once you have really gone through the rigorous healing aspects of ascension. I personally, myself, no longer really experience ascension symptoms anymore. It was something that was really hard for me to get through for about 3 years. My ascension symptoms were really, really bad, to a point that, I mean, I would just be so sick sometimes. But I've healed a lot from that, and I've embodied my higher self to a point that brought my body into the 5D and the higher dimensions, the higher densities. And now, so I honestly have a really strong immune system now. I don't get sick very often, knock on wood. And my light body is very activated in accordance to my immune system. And so just carrying higher light in the body does rapidly accelerate your immune system to be that much more powerful, more potent. You don't have as many physical setbacks when you have gotten through the ascension symptoms, the physical ascension symptoms, because I do feel that if you are experiencing a lot of physical body ascension symptoms, then essentially your body is still rapidly healing you on a molecular level. It's typically from, just all kinds of things that happen in life, certain points you've gotten to through either addiction or trauma. Typically, ascension is triggered by the depths and the core issues of these types of things. Okay, so I'm kind of totally getting off of topic here. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that even for myself, that I don't really experience ascension symptoms anymore. My light body still activates, and I can still feel my plasma and the crystals in the plasma, and I can still feel when they're going from an atomic state to an etheric state to an auric state, or different levels and layers within my perceivability of my own light body field. But essentially, I'm not plagued with ascension symptoms anymore. So I just want to let you guys know that you do get past that point. You will get past the rigorous physical body ascension aspect of ascension. And it's definitely a great space to be in. Okay, guys, so... Okay, so the 4-quadrant hybridization society is represented on my map here by the countries represented by the national animal, the lion. So I'm going to pull up my map in just a second here. But this is through the flag. So this is through the emblem. This is through the coat of arms of the country. So this is how I did label my map on Scribbles here. So all of these are important in terms of the current running grid systems. Now, running grid systems simply means that these are global energy currents. These are typically highly unconscious to the collective. Most people don't have enough global mind to see the interconnections or the internetworking aspects of these, or why they exist, or what it actually means fundamentally. And so people might understand certain facets of these, but I think that we're starting to kind of dive into them in a whole new way. As more revelations unveil themselves, more veils literally are removed, and as more of the collective transitions into higher states of consciousness. Okay, so this would be most recognizable to the indigo type 1, because indigo type 1s will be scanning according to their own biology globally in the grids. And indigo type 1s basically have lifted up off materialized matter density internally, and they have reconstructed crystal plasma. And so they attune mostly to global current. So what they perceive as self is global realization, global identity, all in one initiation of thought or perception. This is advanced avatar mechanics in terms of awareness. And one will typically have transcended physical body ascension to attune on a global network scale. This does require conceptualization and understanding, typically of bilocation, coming out of body, global grid scanning, and fully embodied planetary consciousness and celestial ascension, just like I kind of described before. As all things cosmologically then pertain to continental consciousness. Okay, so this is when you really start diving into the grid keeping aspect of things. You go full on, everything's consciousness. Okay, the continents are consciousness. Different currents of time waves and timelines are consciousness. So even if you're tuning into Pangea, a lot of things that I would remember from this landmass continental consciousness from Pangea is that Pangea may in fact have been the original Lemuria, and that the breaking of Pangea, or the separation of the tectonic plates, was the beginning of Atlantis, was the first initiation, that it all came through the continents, the Earth's consciousness first. Right? And that makes sense, right? All things then continue on to pertain to the ley lines, the axial tonal lines of the Earth, also in the body, the land mass geometry, vortex mechanics, and spheres of magnetic nodal point, and oceanic consciousness as well. So planetary and then human biology perceivability, which to the unconscious human, everything's happening to them first, right? So it's this constant state of reverse awareness. But as you, like I said, keep kind of coming into grid keeping consciousness, you start to perceive planetary as human biology perceivability. Then we have cosmic divine that self-designs and creates societal, governmental, and militarized subsidies of tribal, of cosmological to tribal to Neolithic to colonized concepts of matrices within matrices. And that's how we get these Atlantean Aryan grid control networks, essentially. Now, the 4-quadrant hybridization society is seen symbolically and metaphorically as the face of the lion. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my Scribbles maps here for you guys, and shout out to Scribbles, because thank you, Scribbles, for letting me use your maps to chart. Really appreciate this. I am currently working on designing my own maps that I can have printed out, that I can actually use to film with and things like this. I would like to get it to a point that I have a storybook to go along with each map, so that way one could really dive into what everything is, what everything means, and have like a grid keeper's key. So hopefully that's coming in my near future. But yeah, let me go ahead, guys, and I'm gonna switch to my map here. Now, let me just zoom in here a little bit too, so you can see. Now, the lion grid is everything charted in orange. If you guys can see my key down here, I have the orange under the 4-quadrant hybridization society. In my last video, we did discuss the Aquila grid. So you can kind of take note. The blue is Aquila. The orange is the 4-quadrant hybridization society. And then I also have the Draco-Orion grid that's in red. And then I have the Pegasi grid in like aqua blue green teal. And then Cygnusian grid. Now this grid isn't actually fully completed. I still have a lot of work to do on here, but I do feel like it's good enough to kind of talk about some of the things that I want to talk about. Now, the lion is the main protein identity that has infiltrated the 4 royal stars. So this is called the green lion. Regulus is the green lion that devours the sun and has infiltrated several other living radial systems, such as Lyran, Vega. And Lyran is actually not initially feline. This is simply the quantity and untold aspects of the hybridization account, historically, globally, worldly, and universally. But this is not bad. And some star seeds may not have came into this perception or this awareness yet, so they might hold resistance to this information. And that is okay. A lot of this stuff is deeply occult, and it's slowly exposing itself in divine timing. So if someone's not ready to hear this, then I'm sorry, but I still love you. It's representing the founding truth that ultimately exposes human historical grail lines. So the lion grid does include countries such as Israel, and I actually didn't chart Israel on this map. I have another Israel map that I'm going to show you guys in this update, because as we get more into the 4-quadrant hybridization society, I have a lot more information that I'm going to bring forth. But yes, essentially it's Israel, Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Ethiopia, Gambia, Iran, Kenya, Libya, Luxembourg, North Macedonia, Morocco, the Netherlands, Norway, Sierra Leone, Singapore, Togo, and England. You'll notice that the lion grid is centralized globally. So all of the lion quadrant hybridization society, those who attune to this, they're all within this, basically running from the tip of South Africa to the northern tip of Finland, and stays within the continental expansion of Africa, east and west. It's primarily within the 0-point field, and it stays within the main vertical central axial tonal line globally that would run cosmically Draconian, Lyran, Aquilan, Syrian, Orion, and Hydarian templated imprints. Okay, but it also runs one of the most fundamental celestial grids, the occult grid of the 4 royal stars. So this is Antares, Fomalhaut, Aldebaran, and Regulus. This fundamentally is the most highly hybridized colonizations on the planet. I wouldn't even consider it a colonization, it's more of a quest. It's a quest for the Holy Grail, running cloisters of the hybridized Melchizedek, Anunnaki, and Draco lineages. Okay, so it's centrally located on the planet, and it does not expand out like the Eagle grid does. Okay, the Eagle grid and also Pegasus, and I have a lot more research to do, clearly. There's just so much research to constantly be doing. I wish I could just have all of the information in my brain ready to go, but it takes time. But essentially, yes, so the other grids expand out because they are more, well, avian. Even the Pegasi grid is considered not avian, but it flies. The winged horse flies. So it's also going to be more expanded. But the lion grid stays more localized. And you will see cosmologically most star systems somewhere along the line are encoded by the lion. This is why most starseeds in astral and auric identity see the lion beings in most other starseed nations. It will be like the star systems itself has an original state, such as insectoid, reptilian, cetacean, angelic, extraterrestrial, hominoid, and then all of a sudden, you'll see a lion king that will be present within that starseed nation. And it can present in different facets of the lion as well. The great white lion, the red lion, the gold lion, like out of nowhere. You'll be like studying this nation or looking into this nation, and there are all these other aspects to it, but then there's like a lion and it kind of doesn't fit or it doesn't make sense. It's out of nowhere, right? So why is that? Have you ever thought about how that may not totally make sense? And you may be thinking, oh, it's hybridized with Lyran. Okay, it's a good assumption, and it could very well be true, but there is much more fundamental essence to the lion here. I'm going to explain that more in detail here. Particularly in Antares. Antares is originally arachnoid, insectoid, araneae, and they are breathing arthropods. So this is the family of the spider. Scorpions and spiders are interrelated, and they are desert dwellers. Hence why Antares being so heavily encoded geographically to Persia. So they are also invertebrates, which indicates that they would be one of the oldest soul records on the earth, according to Lunar Stargate wisdom, soul collectives that come from the tides. Invertebrates were birthed from tides. So I've put a video out about lunar stargates. I'll also leave that video in the description so you can kind of dive in. You want to dive into the second half of that video where I really talk about the lunar stargates, their locations, and what's essentially being birthed in terms of soul collectives and consciousness from these tidal locations. Lunar stargate soul seedings would be the oldest dynasties coming in through aquatic stargates. But here in Antares, we also have the great white lion. Okay, so this is a clear indication of the hybridizations in this system. And if you yourself see the lion as your truth in this quadrant, when you reflect into the star systems, it's because you yourself are hybridized from particular human tribes, because the lion represents the sanctions of the Abrahamic tribes. So one of the 12 tribes of Israel, the tribe of Judah, the descendants of Judah, and the Israelite tribes of Judah, being that Judah is the initiator of the lion, which Christ himself belonged to the tribe of Judah. And Christed consciousness is an ascension initiation to the 144,000 and several other facets of ascended mastery. Okay? Not everybody is 144,000 in this life. 144,000 come in to be teachers, and they come in to be way showers, but they themselves may not be a part of the graduating class, so to speak. Okay, so each one of these facets of containers held as collectives, as consciousness, are basically assisting with the total evolution of humanity and souls as they come in and incarnate in the planet. Here is where this 4-quadrant hybridization society starts to define itself as royalty, opposed to the other running Atlantean Aryan grid networks. Because Christ is king, the S-O-N, the S-U-N, and these tribes essentially descended from priests of the Anunnaki. So Abraham, the common patriarch of the Abrahamic religions, called the chain of prophets, called the covenant of the pieces. So according to Zecharia Sitchin, Abraham's lineage he's a member of the ancient Sumerian priesthood. This is significant in understanding the Anunnaki pyramid wars and how the biblical covenant eventually came to exist and the origins of religion. According to Sitchin, Terah, the son of Nahor and the father of Abraham, was born in Ur of the Chaldees. Initially, Abraham was an Enlil oracle priest, chosen to be the chief priest of Enlil's new city base at Haran after kingship was granted to the city of Ur. It was from Abraham that the nation of Israel descended, and as Sitchin points out, Abraham is recorded as having left Ur for Haran in Genesis. So on his way to Haran, Sitchin observes that Abraham met God and he was promised that the descendants would one day possess the lands of Canaan, in which Haran was a part, although it's unclear at this stage why such a promise is being made to Abraham. So this is highlighting the idea that Abraham himself was a descendant of the Anunnaki. Possibly, if not by DNA, then he was initiated by the priesthood of Enlil. If this is true, then all beings descended from the cosmic blueprint of the 4 royal stars and descendants of the Abraham religions are all in fact Anunnaki, which globally makes almost the entire world Anunnaki. The original founding Atlantean Anunnaki hybridized or extensively came through for landing and seeding through existing founder celestial grid structures cosmologically through the 4 royal stars, through Regulus, Antares, Aldebaran, and Fomalhaut from Nibiru. Regulus was the emission point of access granted if the Anunnaki had to gain permission to hybridize through the solar sun and through Regulus and through God, looking at the celestial bodies as gatekeepers that hold entrance keys into our universe through the core of planetary living light energy. The 4 living creatures, the lion, the ox, the eagle, the man, from Revelations, Isaiah, Daniel, Ezekiel, these are God's throne bearers, the angels who hold up the thrones. And I've talked a lot about the thrones of power. So I will leave a list in the description so you can read more about the celestial thrones that I've wrote about. There is still so much more research to be done here. But the 4 royal stars are initiated through the lion as the main representative to this planetary passage system. Through Regulus, who is considered the green lion, this has been the founding and first grid at the time of Atlantis. Which makes sense, right? Because they are all located in Africa. And Africa is where humanity began, essentially. Now, there's speculation that it was Australia or Papua New Guinea. A lot of the research I've gone into has indicated that the first beings were, in fact, from Africa. So all countries charted here by national emblem and coat of arms hold the lion's signature. This is important energetically because the emblem signature that the nation holds defines certain things, like the majority of the race morphogenetic identity and gene cloisters that then goes on to be encoded into the biology and the landmass water memory and geometry, bringing forth architecture in all forms, where improves the atomic spiritual functionings of manifestation, matter, and alchemy. The emblem also defines the Grail extension, ancestral lineages, and the DNA of the beings activated by these particular stargates falling under the emblem. So this will be all according to solar stargate and lunar stargate codes. Also, the alchemy intelligence of combined compounds and the spiritual natures and essence these metals obtain and express. Because the metals are very important to those connected, living, and interrelated to the 4 quadrant hybridization society. This is the King's Society over Royal Lion's blood. This is the main seeding route used by not only the Anunnaki, but also by the Dracos, which I will explain more in this video. So when I say seeding route, I mean cosmic passageway of interconnections allowing biogenesis and advantages in which way celestial pantheons seeded the earth, tribalized, aggregized, and colonized. 4 quadrant hybridization society is an occult seeding route, as you will not find these star systems in their true story according to universal cosmic account, because they have been demonized mostly throughout history, therefore left out of the story in any truthful manner anyways. And you have to really figure it out for yourself. You can't really take account for other people's stories of these things. It's like you have to read 12 different books of the same account, and then you have to intuit what you feel is your gnosis. They also left this out and demonized this because they also wanted you to fear your forefathers who carried the sperm of gold, right? Because they were all chugging white liquid gold. Big egos never like to acknowledge who and what came before. They also like to distort and take ownership, demonizing history to then take claim for themselves. And this is happening at the level of ascended masters. This is happening at 12D perspectives and beyond. The 4 quadrant hybridization society is predominantly over king's blood, the lion's blood, because lions and kings symbolize gold. The AU in authentic, okay? Authentic is the king's emanation, authenticity. And the 4 royal stars, particularly Regulus, are the initiators to the 4 quadrant golden progenitor seeds, cosmologically, planetarily, and historically, directly from the philosopher's stone. If you mix gold with Regulus of antimony, the gold forgets its stubbornness in the fire and it melts. The Anunnakis knew this so well. Moses and Abraham knew this so well. Regulus, the green lion, devours the sun, so all secrets of the philosopher are hidden. Hence why we have Freemasonry and secret societies. Hence why we even have coats of arms. Because Regulus is devouring the sun, so all secrets of the philosopher are hidden. Hidden control systems encoded right into the hybridization of your DNA. Now, the 4 royal stars, which oversee the 4 quadrant hybridization society planetarily according to Atlantean networks, they have been called the Watchers. They are also encoded to the 4 living creatures. Okay, Regulus, or Venant, according to its Persian name, is the lion, the green lion, king of earthly predators. Aldebaran, the Pleiadian protectors, or Tashcheter, in its Persian name, is the bull or the ox. It represents the personality of the king. Antares, or Sativus, in its Persian name, is the eagle. This is the king of aerial predators. And Fomalhaut, or Haftarang, in its Persian name, is the fish, which the fish mouth equates to man. So don't ask me how on that one, but it's basically because he is king of fire, because God's flames turned into water, and then into wood, and then into the fish. And they wanted to merge all 4 kings to create one supersized hybrid. The Anunnaki and the Dracos, of course, knew to go through the kings. They knew to go through the king's cosmological alignment for seeding and landing. So any astrological alignments, solar and lunar, to the 4 royal stars are going to awaken the Draconian Stargates, the Nibirian bunkers, and the Anunnaki Stargate at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. The Temple Mount in Jerusalem is the Anunnaki Stargate. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys my next chart. So this is my Nibiru map. Let me zoom out because I was in there charting stuff the other day. Okay, so what I have charted here are all of the Nibirian underground bunkers, and underground bunkers are coming up a lot lately because the entire child trafficking thing is coming up a lot. It's trying to be censored. It's trying to be swept under the rug. The Malak Melchizedek tribes is what I call them, are the ones that are basically trying to censor this information from getting out. So you'll see a lot of people, one thing that I noticed was there's a lot of people that are having to really go to a lot of extremes to get this information out right now. But I do feel that somehow it's interrelated to the Nibirian bunkers, these child trafficking underground tunnels. This is very real, and this is something that really is going on. So I just wanted to talk about this briefly to bring awareness to this, because the child trafficking aspect is something that's it's really starting to try to push through the blockages that have been set in front of it so people can get this information. But essentially, these are the locations of the Nibirian bunkers and the Anunnaki Stargate, and the location of the Dead Sea Scrolls, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. So I'm going to just show you this area. Hang on. Now, Jerusalem, I didn't highlight it in orange, but it is under the lion emblem, under the lion coat of arms. And essentially, where this star is the Anunnaki Stargate. This is the Anunnaki planetary Stargate. This is the locations where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found by the Dead Sea. And then this here is the Sinai Peninsula. This was supposedly the landing airport for the Anunnaki. And that is according to Sitchin. This location here, this little dot with the black dot inside, this is called the Qumran. And this is actually an archaeological site where over 225 biblical texts were found by the Dead Sea. So the Dead Sea essentially carries the words of Moses. And I do believe Moses wrote Genesis. Or that was Abraham. I'm sorry. One or the other wrote Genesis. Just if you know the answer to that, just throw that in the comments. Clarify me, please. But yes, Israel also. So this is a very activated area for the planet because this is the Anunnaki Stargate. Israel also, just a fun fact, generates. So the Dead Sea. This is very important. Israel generates over $3 billion annually from the sale of minerals from the Dead Sea. Jordan, its neighbor, makes about 1.2 billion off of the Dead Sea. So this is big business here. And in the time of the Anunnaki, the Dead Sea was the prized possession. This Anunnaki Stargate here, this houses 4 sanctions of Holy Templars, 4 kings, Armenian, Judaism, Christianity, and Islamic. Okay, this is a temple built by the King of Solomon. And it was destroyed by the Babylonian Empire. It was built back again to be hit by the Roman invasion, and then it was built back again. I actually have some more information on that. Hang on just a second. A lot's happened at this Stargate. Yes, essentially, Jerusalem's been destroyed twice. It's been besieged 23 times. It's been recaptured 44 times. It's been attacked 52 times. It's always under this state of being invaded, being destroyed, trying to be hit and taken over again. It's because it's considered Jerusalem is the holiest place in the world. And the Anunnaki knew this because the Mediterranean, okay? Let me show you guys the Mediterranean here and why this is so amazing. I mean, the Mediterranean, this is considered the earth heart mothers of the earth because it is held so sacredly in between Africa, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Turkey, Greece, Italy, Spain, France. This water is very sacred. This is a very sacred sea. It's considered heart mother waters of the earth because it is wrapped around and protected by the most precious lands on the earth, right at the center of the earth. Jerusalem is also in between the Dead Sea, which the Anunnaki used the salt from the Dead Sea to make white powdered gold because it's 9.6 times saltier than the ocean. So the Dead Sea salt is the most concentrated, most potent, most powerful salt that you can get on Earth. And these minerals literally make you stronger than anywhere else in the world. Just from me literally going to the White Desert, where it had some of these salt formations all over the desert, I mean, my nails were immediately completely solid hard. I could feel the influx of strength in my body, the calcium deposits in my body. So the reason why Jerusalem is so fought over is because of its position between the heart mother waters and the powerful sea salts of the Dead Sea. I'm just I'm zooming in here for you guys. The metals were the prize for these king hybrids. They were superconducting gold from the seawater, the alchemical stone from sea salt. So they were extracting gold from the seawater, from the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is also the lowest elevation on land, meaning Jerusalem would be closest to the Schumann resonance on the earth. Plus, all the ancients were drinking the gold Kool-Aid, right? They were all getting hyped up on electricity, writing Bibles and stuff. Like Moses ate it, Hermes ate it, Thoth ate it. Abraham was a priest of Enlil. You know he ate white gold. So I'm going to show you on another map that I have here now, the locations of the 4 royal stars. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my other map up here for you guys to see. Okay guys, so I had to switch over to my other camera so I could just show you my Mercator map of the starry heavens, comprehending the whole equatorial, terminated by the polar circles. So my map is a little rough. I've had it rolled up and I actually got a little rip in it, so I'm not very happy about that. And apparently I can't get it laminated at FedEx. So if anyone knows where I could get a map of larger dimensions, because I think this is 21 inches long, let me know where I can get something like that laminated, because I would love to. This is a very expensive map. But what I'm going to show you here on this map is where all of the 4 royal stars are located, because I think it's kind of good to have this in your mind so you can kind of see. We have Aldebaran here, and I hope you guys can see okay. I know you probably can't make out the wording, but I have them all highlighted. Aldebaran, Regulus, Antares, and Fomalhaut. So all 4 of the royal stars basically ride that celestial equatorial plane. And they also make up for the curvature. So this actually curves, and so Antares and Fomalhaut dip with the curvature, essentially. But essentially, Aldebaran, Regulus, Antares, and Fomalhaut all ride the equatorial plane right at the 0-degree markers, and these create the 4 quadrants in the sky, anchored into the planet by the Lion network. Regulus would be the access point. Okay, Regulus is it begins the journey, essentially. Okay, this aligns to the solar sun. This also aligns to the 4th planetary stargate, Giza, Egypt, in terms of grid structures. So if we overlapped a cosmic grid over Earth grid, this stargate would align directly to that planetary location. Now, the 4 royal stars, they are considered tetramorphic in nature, where they are the arrangement of 4 representing the incarnation of Christ, courage, resurrection, and royalty, also representing the 4 elements, earth, water, air, and fire, which really on an atomic level or a quantum or physics level breaks down to solids, liquids, gases, and radiations. So if you were born under the influence of Aldebaran, Regulus, Antares, or Fomalhaut as a star seed, then you are a descendant of this grail. You basically walk a life of redemption through sacrifice and make the ultimate sacrifices for the future of humanity. These are the Melchizedek cloister hybrids, and they are descendants to the Anu through the Anunnaki, and also hybridizations, and I know y'all don't want to hear this, but with Draco as well. And I'm going to explain much more about this. So instead of getting all upset about this Draco connection, just hear me out on this, because it's pretty solid. It's pretty foundational. And again, I am not about demonizing star nations, stargates, star locations, historically what they mean. I feel that it would just serve the world an injustice to judge these parts of our cosmology historically. Even if you research the Kabbalah, judgment is a lower kingdom of consciousness. Judgment represents consciousness in the lower gates, in the lower spheres, realms, and worlds. So it is not our place to come here and judge these star nations in terms of what they have done for humanity, or what they have built in terms of what's gotten us here to where we are today. It's not our place to judge any of this. It actually requires a lot higher level of intellect and consciousness to come to a place of understanding and come to a place of wisdom within that, and to see the higher connections on a greater scale of evolution. Now, if you look here quickly, I just want to highlight a point that I made in another video called The Origin of the Feline Race. So again, I will leave that video in the post description. That in the past, I have tied this particular 4-quadrant hybridization seeding route to Draco because of some key clues. So one is because of the trajectory of Thuban. So I just want you guys to take a look at this. Thuban is the alpha star in Draco. So Draco's up here. It actually comes off the map, but this is the body of Draco that wraps around, and this is Draco's head here. But Thuban is the alpha star in Draco, which really holds up very closely to the North Pole star. So the North Pole star I had to even put on my map because it wasn't even on here. But it is not far off. It is the closest star to the North Pole star. And why is that? Well, because 5,000 years ago, Thuban was the North Pole star. So it's important to look at the trajectory of Thuban in accordance to the 4 royal stars in ratio and position in the northern hemisphere. So I just I don't have like a ruler, but I just want to show you that in terms of seeding routes and incarnations, I mean, there's a clear trajectory from Thuban to Aldebaran, from Thuban to Regulus, from Thuban to Antares, and then from Thuban to Fomalhaut. Okay, and star systems that are in the northern hemisphere do hold more Akashic records. They hold more indigo records. They hold the oldest records historically. And they pertain to much more fundamental aspects of civilization historically as well. They are definitely star systems you want to take note of. Now, Thuban was once the pole star 5,000 years ago. This would have been at the time a lot of this ancient historical stuff was going down, but no one really wants to recognize that in ancient cosmology, at least today, that Thuban held it down when the Bible was being written, that Sumerians and the Anunnaki walked under the Thuban North Pole star. So it really makes you wonder, are we really talking about Draco Anunnaki hybrids seated in this hybridization system? I do feel the answer is yes. But varying multiple degrees of these hybrids, okay? So it doesn't mean it means that there's all kinds of different spectrums of this hybridization, of course. Also to notate that celestial soul collectives nurseries are birthed from nebulas and tetranuclear gold clusters. Okay, so similar to the Ultra Aurora Australis or Borealis. Nebulas are also so colorful because of tetranuclear gold state. The gold is what makes them colorful. So the gold is the metal of the kings to the 4-quadrant hybridization society. Well, what I want you to take note of is right inside of Thuban, okay, is the Cat's Eye Nebula. So this is the Cat's Eye Nebula here. Okay. The eye of the cat, the eye of the primordial dragon. So dragons and cats have the same vertical coin-shaped pupil and iris. So it seems there is many deeper levels and layers to the feline identity. In fact, I always was guided to the Sphinx that this was a homage to the Draconian Empire. Okay, this is a homage to the kings, to the Anunnaki Draconian kings. Okay, this is like a beam of light that just shoots straight through Thuban and Regulus to the Sphinx itself. That there is a deep connection here from Draco to Regulus straight into the planetary gate site. Also, the way in which the control structures are implemented and so on and so forth. So usually this is through military, draconian law, government, religion, majority, religion descendancy, the Abrahamic religions,
it truly does seem and feel like there was a marriage between Anunnaki and Draco philosophies, right? So the Four Quadrant Hybridization Society is fundamentally the most highly hybridized colonizations on the planet. I wouldn't even consider it like a colonization. Like I said, this is more of a quest. This is the quest for the Holy Grail that is running the hybridized Melchizedek, Anunnaki, Draco's lineages. And this is everyone's history, in my opinion. The demonization of such origins should be eliminated because it is highly unnecessary. Okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. This one was pretty deep, I know. Some of you may not agree with every aspect of it, and that's totally okay. My advice, if you don't agree with any of it, is to do your own research and make your own conclusions. That this is a lot of my hard work to bring this forth to everyone, so I hope that those who wanted to hear it or needed to hear it or are open to hearing it did get to hear it today. And yeah, guys, so the Four Quadrant Hybridization Society is very deeply, fundamentally, the most important occult seeding route on the earth today in terms of cosmological star seedings, and also in accordance to its governmental control, militarization, and religious aspects of the planet. And I myself am not religious. I am an omnius, so I find my truth in everything that calls to me. And I hope that these perceptions today helped open your eyes up to all potentials of the universe, and hopefully assists with any limitations that one might be holding at this time. So again, I love you all so much. You can find more of my detailed grid updates on my Patreon. That is patreon.com/indigoangel. And you can also work with me more extensively. You can find my services at indigoangel222.com. Thank you all so much for listening today, and have a beautiful everything. Namaste.